me about it. Come on, let's talk about it. Change up the things you see. Open your mind to possibilities. Find your power, passion, and your purpose. You know it's time for you to walk in greatness. Let's murder mediocrity. Slay your goals, live out your dreams. Right now. Inspirational Perspective.
Today, I want to kind of bring all of it home. And what I mean by that is I want to challenge you. And the question I want to use to challenge you is, are you really number one in your own life? Now, this is a two-part challenge because right now when I say that, someone's going to say, well, no, I shouldn't be, right? My children are number one. My spouse is number one. Like they're making, like you may be making other people number one in your life. And to you, I say, please keep listening because in order to adequately take care of your children, you have to be number one in your life. Otherwise, you may not be here to take care of your children, right? In order for me to adequately care for my spouse, I have to be number one in my own life. Because when she's down, if I'm down, then nobody's taking care of anybody. It's just that simple, right? And so now when it comes to, ranking, she's number two. There's no question. Taking care of myself, and then I'm making sure that she's taken care of, right? Because if she goes down, then that also impacts my life. My wife gets ill, then that slows everything down. In many ways, it could shut many things down, right? And so it's not that we don't care about other people. And as a matter of fact, one of the things we're going to be doing is dispelling what I call 5 myths of self-love. And one of those myths is around, how we look after others before we look after ourselves. But what I want to talk about today, as we kind of really peel back this topic, are you really number one in your own life, is I want to talk about what true self-love really is. Like really get down to, I suppose, like the core of what we call self-love. Question number 1. Who wants to go first? Ade or Justin? Which one of you guys want to? Just throw a hand up, man. What's that? Yeah. You say Ade?
Yeah.
Ade. All right, Ade. Ade, do you love yourself?
I do. I especially this year, I'm gaining more love for myself. So.
Okay, so you're saying that there are levels to this.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so you're noticing that you are giving yourself more love than you have in the past.
Yeah, I would say, definitely earlier on, it wasn't really on my radar. I don't know, it was just natural to, have love for others and not kind of focus on myself. But since 2020, the pandemic, all that stuff.
Oh, okay.
Really.
It kind of woke you up to,
it.
I need to take care of myself. I need to love myself.
Exactly.
Okay, so there was a time where you would say you did not love yourself.
Yeah, not in the way I should have.
Okay, not in the way you should have. All right, Justin.
Yep.
Justin is, by the way, Ade is my production assistant, by the way, the gentleman who puts together the compilations and things when I'm out, and so give him some love. And Justin is my technical producer. So good morning, Justin.
Morning.
Justin, do you love yourself?
Same, echoing Ade, this year more than I have ever before.
Okay.
Took a minute to get there. Before I didn't, but it took about, like you said, during the pandemic and doing some other situations over the course of the past 2 years, I've loved myself more than I've ever loved myself in my life.
Got it. So there was a time where you would say you were not adequately loving yourself.
Yes.
Okay. Now, since both of you gentlemen have admitted there was a time that you weren't adequately loving yourselves, would you say that self-love is mostly about awareness?
Yes.
Yeah. I was
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. It's
Yep.
about awareness.
Yes.
All right. So for those of you listening, I think that's the first point I want to make. That if I'm not aware of how to love myself, then I'm probably not loving myself. Would you all agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Most
Okay.
definitely.
All right. And these are both young gentlemen, man. Let me tell you something. If I had this kind of information when I was y'all age, woo,
I feel the same way.
all I'm saying is take action.
I
Take
feel
action.
the same way.
All right. Okay. Now, so you all are saying awareness. So would it be safe to say that by the end of the show, after I bring more awareness, that it's possible that you find you're not loving yourself adequately? Would you say that's a possibility?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
definitely.
All right. So
Yeah.
what we're admitting here, me too, right, that there's room for improvement
Yeah.
around our
Most
self-love,
definitely.
and there's opportunity for additional awareness.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. That wasn't so hard, was it? Yeah. Y'all thought I was going to ask something. You're like, woo, what's he about to ask? Okay. All right. So we're clear there. All right. Now, since we've gained some clarity around this whole idea of awareness and self-love, hopefully, those of you listening, you can track with this. Okay. I want you to run these same questions through your mind. As a matter of fact, those of you on Facebook, you can answer like, man, I see somebody right here that say, I absolutely love me some me. Keep listening. Keep listening. All right, keep listening. Because, again, we just established that self-love is about awareness. And the more awareness I have, then the more I'm able to love myself. So then what we can also establish is that if I avoid self-awareness, if I avoid awareness, right? Meaning, by the way, one of the ways that we avoid awareness is we like, I don't feel like all of that self-improvement, self-development stuff this morning. I don't feel like that. I just want to have fun. I'm just going to, do this or do that, right? Do something different. I'm just going to scroll through social media. I'm going to watch some funny videos, whatever it may be. But what we're saying then is that and of course, not outside your commitment, I'm talking about committed development. But if I avoid development, then one of the things that we can say is that I'm actually avoiding the awareness that will allow me to increase the level of love I have for myself. Can we say that? Okay. All right. Then stick with me. Now, if you ask the average person, like even for you all listening right now, if you ask the average person the yes or no question of, do you love yourself? Almost 100% of them are going to say yes. 100%. But when we look at the stats of America, then we see that the majority of Americans are obese. All right. The majority of Americans are dehydrated. 75% of Americans are walking around in the land of the free, in the home of the brave, where most of us have access to free water, Listen to me, right? You can go into any public place and drink from a water fountain, right? And the water is clean. Yet 75% of us are walking around dehydrated. And the majority of these folks, if I asked them, if we were like out in the street with a mic, like Jimmy Kimmel, or somebody like that, right? And we say, do you love yourself? They go, yes. And then if we were able to take a measure of whether they're hydrated in that moment, we find that they probably are dehydrated. We say, well, why haven't you drank water? If you love yourself. And they probably like, oh, I don't like water. Or something like that, right? But I love myself. I do love myself. I just prefer to drink soda. But I love myself. I love myself. Okay? And we can go down the list of different things, right? The number one cause of death is heart disease. Is heart disease preventable, or is this something you catch in the air? Right? But again, I mean, it's not COVID-19. You can't catch it. You can't just breathe it in. I call heart disease for my day. He gave me heart disease. You can't, that doesn't happen, right? So who gives who heart disease?
Yourself.
Right.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
But again, if you ask the majority of people listening, they would say, I absolutely 100% love myself. Now, what I'm doing right now is I'm debunking this go-to. Okay, I'm debunking this go-to because most people, when you say, are you really number one in your life? They go, absolutely. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're not number one. Because if you were truly number one, would you treat yourself the way you treat yourself? Would you put in your body the things you put in your body? Would you keep from yourself or hold from yourself things that are actually good for the body? Would you deprive yourself of sleep? Many of us do, right? I just want to watch one more show. You can't hardly keep your eyes open. And I just want to watch one more episode. Literally, in many ways, hurting ourselves. And not just hurting ourselves, but also hurting the outcome that we could create for ourselves. I was one of these people at one time. I was this person at one point in my life. If you had asked me, Linal, do you love yourself? I would have absolutely. No question. Absolutely. Do you see how fly I'm dressed right now? You know, because these are the kind of things that we equate self-love to, like how I look, right? You know, do you smell how wonderful I smell right now? You know, like I love myself. I take showers and I put on, you know, great colognes and perfumes. By the way, some of those colognes and perfumes are getting into your skin and poisoning you. Just, you know, a side note. Spray it on your shirt, not your skin. I mean, again, awareness, right? We don't even know that we're hurting ourselves at the same time that we're declaring that we love ourselves. And here's the thing about me. I thought I loved myself, but because I lacked awareness regarding what self-love truly was, I quickly began to realize I didn't love myself. As a matter of fact, I remember being in my coach training certification course, and the master coach facilitating the course basically posed this question to all of us in the room. And I looked around the room and I made some judgments. This is what we do as human beings, right? I'm like, oh, she overweight. She don't love herself. Oh, yeah, he lacked confidence. He ain't going to say yes. Do you know everybody in that room said yes, including me? And then guess who she pointed out and said, I'm going to challenge you. Guess who she pointed out in that room? And I'm thinking, you know, because this is what we compare ourselves. This is what we do as human beings. We compare ourselves. We walk into a room and we immediately start comparing ourselves to other people. It's part of our makeup. And she pointed to me and said, Linal, you don't love yourself. Oh, I got mad. You don't know me. And you don't know how I care for myself. And then she started pointing out some things. Every weekend you come in, you're exhausted. Oh, that was true. You put the work that you do in front of your own well-being. That was true. How much alcohol do you drink, Linal? I don't drink that much. Do you drink every day? No, maybe every other day. How much do you drink? 2 fingers of whiskey. Is that good for your liver? No. Oh, but you said, without a shadow of a doubt, that you love yourself. Yet you're poisoning yourself. Do you deprive yourself of sleep? Yes. I mean, she started going down. Do you deprive your body of exercise? Yes. What else do you do that is not self-love? So now I start coming out of my anger, because initially I was angry. And I started thinking, because there were things that I did that did not display self-love. Somebody right now might be listening and you just got out of someone's bed that you barely know. And before that, you were saying, I love myself, really? But you just gave yourself, man or woman, doesn't matter. You just gave yourself to someone spiritually that you barely know, but you love yourself. And see, most of us, including me, right? This is not, I'm just saying, most of us, when we really get down to it, our priority is looking good on the outside. Showing up well, like that's the priority. Self-love, like we fool ourselves into thinking that self-love is the priority. But we're going to get into, if it were, we're going to talk about some of the things that you would be handling and how we really properly show ourselves love. But we think looking good, right? And so, bros, what we do is we buy nice looking J's, right? Like, oh, I just have to show myself a little love. I had to splurge on myself a little bit. And we're like, that's self-love. Like, no, that's buying shoes. That's what that is. That's the basics. Really doesn't matter what shoe it is as long as it keeps your foot warm this time of the year, right? Okay. Now, so we prioritize looking good. We prioritize showing up well. Like some of us won't take a shower if we don't got to go out. We'll sit in our funk all day. Like, tell me I'm lying right now. Tell me I'm lying. You'd be like, ooh, this is horrible. And go right to the refrigerator and eat something. Right? Woo. I definitely got to do something before I step out. Well, why would you treat yourself that way? Again, because everybody's saying, even when I look at the Facebook comments, people are like, I love myself. I love myself. And it's like, nah, I don't know. Like the proof is in the pudding. Many of us take on abuse at the same time that we say, oh, but Linal, you don't know what you're talking about because I love myself. And this is just a fraction of the abuse that we take or even place on ourselves. Even me, I would say I love myself. I would declare this, right? This is before I really understood what self-love was. I love myself even when I lied to myself, even when I overlooked my inconsistencies, even when I ignored my flaws, tried to ignore my flaws, even when I dragged myself with shame about my embarrassing mistakes, like just beat myself mentally, right? With horrible mental thoughts. Y'all, you should have known better. You should have done that. You should have, you could have. Like literally mentally beating myself and at the same time saying that I love myself. And then perpetrating my trauma on other people, my unhealed trauma. But I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. Even though I compared myself to others. And at the same time procrastinated on my personal commitments. But I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. So let me ask you. Where are you at this morning? Like, do you really love yourself? Are you really number one in your own life? And this is the question I really want us to consider. We go into the second hour. I really want to break this down and then begin laying out ways that we can increase the love that we have for ourselves. But this is the question I want us to really consider this morning. Like, are you really, really number one in your own life? Now, I want to bring some awareness to something before we continue. And that is this notion of self-judgment. Because one of the things that happens when we come across new information, and this is something I share with my clients often, I'll get on a line with a client and I'll say, hey, man or woman, how was your week? Tell me about your wins. And the first thing they'll do, now mind you, I just said, tell me about your wins. And the first thing they'll do is, I dropped the ball. I dropped the ball on such and such and such and such, right? And I'll go, okay, well, when we get to that part, because mind you, I was talking about wins, right? When we get to that part, let's take a look at it. Because in coaching, there's no judgment. We just observe things as they are, right? Any of my clients can tell you. They've gotten on the phone and told me some things. They full of guilt. I can't believe I'm like, okay, let's take a look at it, right? Because the idea is to gain more awareness, not to judge it. Not to judge it. We got plenty of other people that'll do that for us, okay? All right, so as we have this conversation, I want us to notice self-judgment. And the reason judgment is important, self-judgment is important because judgment serves as a distraction to what's really going on. Hear me now. Whenever I'm judging myself, there's no growth. There's no opportunity for growth. All I'm doing is taking the lash or the whip and giving myself lashes. That's all I'm doing when I judge myself. Oh, I shouldn't have, or I can't believe I did this. And what happens is, while I'm spanking myself or abusing myself, I'm missing the point. And the point is to gain awareness around why I did what it was that I did. This is how we grow. But judgment serves as a distraction. And so if I'm judging myself, then I can't look at what took place with a curiosity for more awareness. Like you can't have both. You can't have both. And this morning, what I want us to do, this is not a conversation about judgment or what you've done wrong. This is a conversation for awareness. So when it comes to how we love and care for ourselves, words don't matter. You know how, ladies, right now, Love and I, we're teaching these courses, right? The dating gym, couple sauna. In the couple sauna, you have, both the husband and wife, etc. But in the dating gym, a lot of times they're asking for advice, and Love will say, well, Linal, give a man's perspective, or man, what should they know from a man's perspective, right? And this is not probably any shock to anybody. One of the things I've said often is words don't matter, actions do, right? Now, we'll take that to the bank on somebody else sometimes. Sometimes, right? Because don't let them be looking good and smelling good. You can say just about anything, and I want to believe him. Well, he didn't mean it. He didn't mean to stand me up at the restaurant on Friday and leave me all by myself all evening and not call and not text. Like he said, he completely forgot. He thought it was next weekend. And so, I'm going to forgive him because he does look good. And my, does he smell good, right? I mean, this is... and, you keep saying like, hey, man, words don't matter. Actions do. Every brother knows this. So why would we change this notion when it comes to self-love? See, because a lot of us, we talk a good game. We talk a good game, but then what's really happening when it comes to how we care for ourselves? What's really happening? What's really, really happening? And see, the thing is, like this morning, just to bring awareness, not judgment, I just want to bring some awareness. You don't love yourself if you only talk about it. You don't love yourself if you only talk about it, but you lack the discipline to be about it. You don't love yourself. See, because love is one of those things. Love is an action. Love is an action. Like, I can't tell my wife how much I love her. Like Valentine's Day just went by, right? I could be like, if I woke up that morning, brothers, y'all with me? If I woke up that morning, I know I ain't do nothing for Valentine's Day. Somebody out there right now like, man, why you got to bring this up? Because you didn't do nothing. It's been icy all week in your house. because you didn't do nothing. Okay? But if I didn't do anything for my wife on Valentine's Day, I could wake up and say, Happy Valentine's Day with a big old smile, hug and kiss her. She like, okay. But where's the action? I love you, baby. I love you more than anything in the world. You know you mine. Mwah, 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 mwah. Okay. But where's the action? Doorbell rings. It's a UPS package for me, not her, right? Oh, that's mine. I'll take that. But I love you. Where's the action? Where's the action? Like, by the end of the day, she's going to be questioning me. So why don't we question ourselves? Why don't we say, well, wait a second. I've been talking about exercise, and I've been talking about changing my diet. I've been talking about, drinking more water. I've been talking about these. But I haven't done it. Well, maybe there's just a lack of self-love. And that's the game that needs to be improved. How you love yourself. How you make yourself number one. Another question from Facebook. Lisa asked, when is it healthy to judge yourself? Like, when is there a healthy time to judge yourself? And what I would say is there is never a healthy time to judge yourself. Never. Now, awareness, and somebody right now is probably like, oh, no, man, when you wrong, you wrong. There's a difference between awareness and judgment. Judgment typically comes, like, think about it, right? Whenever you're giving a judgment, it comes with some kind of punitive discipline. And so when we're judging ourselves, often what we're doing is disciplining ourselves. But we're not doing it in a nice way. That discipline isn't how we're talking to ourselves. Like, that's why I say, like, put up the whip and the lashes, because often what we're doing is we're talking about ourselves, or we're saying things mentally that are not empowering. And when you come from a place of awareness, you go, it's more about curiosity. Why am I doing it? Why am I not drinking water? What's going on? Like, okay, why am I so drawn to these sweets? What's going on? Like, what can I do to decrease the amount of sweets that I'm taking in? Because when you come from curiosity, you begin to gain more awareness about how you function in that area of life. Judgment is, oh, I can't believe you ate that donut. You're always eating donuts with your fat self, right? And so now you're shaming. I'm serious. This is how we talk to ourselves. And so then we're shaming ourselves, and there's no progress outside of the shame. And so, in my opinion, judgment is not healthy. And by the way, the better you get at how you talk to yourself, the better you will be at stopping other people from judging you too. You'll be like, slow that down. Don't talk to me like that. If you want to say something, then, provide it to me in a different way. Okay? But when I talk to myself like that, when somebody else comes and judge me, well, it feels natural, because that's what I do all the time anyway. So one of the things that happens is my clients do this often. We create what I call competing priorities. So like, I want to be the best parent in the world, and I also want to love myself. And then we go, but how do I do both? Like, how do I do both, coach? And by the way, my clients will bring these type of things to me. They be like, so how do I do it then? Right? And they're like, I got them now. And my answer is always integration. You integrate being a great parent with adequately loving yourself. See, we've been taught, and I'm going to talk about this in a moment. We've been taught to have a negative bias on almost everything in our lives. Sure. Well, what you want? But what I was talking about is this whole idea of integration. So one of the things that we do is we'll take two great concepts, right? Like being a great parent and loving ourselves. And we'll say it's absolutely not possible. I have to choose one. And that's how we've been wired in many ways, right? To have these negative biases and by the way, also because that's how we've been wired too is, we do it to legend, right? You can't have both, choose one. So then we grow up believing we have to choose only one thing. When we're powerful beings, we're creators, and you can create brand new options that you've never thought of if you open your mind to the possibility. And so then how do I integrate being a great parent and adequate self-love? How do I integrate, being like present for my children and present for myself? Like, how do I integrate these things? Part of it is actually teaching the child that mommy gets to have her time. Like, one of the things we're teaching Legend right now, like, because he's an only child, he thinks everything's about him. He thinks the living room and the TV is his TV. I'll turn on basketball like, Daddy, you can't watch basketball. Why not? Because I want to watch Lion Guard. And I'm like, nah, man, it's basketball time now. Right? He might start crying. I'm like, hey, no, come down and sit down. I watched Lion Guard with you. Now you watch basketball with me. But we got to teach them, even through the discomfort of the crying and all. No, like it ain't all about you. So same thing. And hopefully, Melvina, let me know if that answered. But integration, integrate, and then look for areas to get supported. Find who you can enroll in supporting you and adequately loving yourself as you love your children. Someone you can trust and will care for your children in the way that you do. Okay. So what is self-love? Self-love comes from accepting yourself for who you are in this very moment. Now, let's pause there for a second. It's accepting myself for who I am in this very moment. Everything. This includes your insecurities that might drive you nuts, your faults, your physical imperfections, your traumas. Yes, your traumas. Yes, your traumas. Your fears, your journey, and the ups and downs of that journey. Self-love is accepting all those things about yourself. Number one, self-love is the willingness to accept it all. And then, get this, love it all. I love the trauma because it happened to me and it made me who I am today. It gives me a different perspective. It gives me a different ability to reach certain people. And for me to hate that part of me means that I hate myself because it is a part of me. I want to be really clear about this. Now, it doesn't mean we don't go get the trauma supported and helped and therapy and all those things, right? But I got it. Hey, this is who I am. And I have to learn to accept that part of me. Otherwise, it will always be a piece that I contend with, likely a piece that I judge, that will make me feel incomplete and insecure in some capacity until I learn how to love it. And then what I do is I look for ways to bring more awareness to what I may not know about myself. That's self-love, right? Step 2 to self-love. So step 1, loving everything about me. Step 2, looking to bring more awareness to the things I don't know about myself. All of us are human. Every last one of us, if you're listening to me right now, I'm not talking about the dog that just, looked up and then but the rest of us, we're human. And because of that, not one of us is perfect. Not one of us. And every one of us has insecurities. Point me to the person who says they have no insecurities. You're pointing me to a narcissist that has more insecurities than most of us. That's just the truth. We all got insecurities. There are things that I would prefer that you don't know about me. And there are things that you prefer that the rest of the world does not know about you. Things that we don't do well, things that we try to compensate for. It's a human truth. So then what I must do is I love myself, and I'm willing to face whatever it is that I hate most about myself and say, it's okay, I still love you. I still love you. Like, this is one thing that I wish I could just, but you know what? I got to get to the point where I'm like, it's okay, Linal, I still love you. You are amazing. You are made in God's image. You are a creator. You are great. And I love your greatness. And see, until you can fully accept your imperfections and your insecurities, you will never truly be able to accept yourself. And let me say that again. Until you can fully accept your imperfections and your insecurities. You know, somebody out there, you might be like, man, you know, cognitively, you know, I'm not as fast as everybody else. You know, sometimes I feel like I get left behind. You know, and I'm a little insecure about that. And it's like, you know what? It's cool. But you still got to love yourself, and then you got to get to a point where you love yourself so much and you gain confidence in other areas where you can be like, hey, y'all moving fast, man. Can somebody slow this down for me? Hey, the rest of y'all, y'all IQs might be over 120. I think mine might be at 100. Can you slow this down for me? You can say it with confidence and love for yourself, no judgment. And guess what happens when you show up that way? You know, other people are like, no, you good. Or somebody, they'll break it down. Also, what we were saying was, right? But many times we go, like if you're that person, you go fully not understanding an entire conversation because of your insecurities, because you haven't accepted that about yourself. That's just one example. It comes in many forms and fashions. So until you can fully accept your imperfections and your insecurities, you will never truly be able to fully accept yourself. And if you don't accept yourself, you will mistreat yourself in some capacity. Like come on, I want to be really clear about this. If you don't fully accept yourself, then you will mistreat yourself in some capacity. Now, let me give you an example of what I mean. If you're not number one in your own life, listen closely. Someone or something else is. I know somebody that had an old school car, right? Beautiful too, man. Beautiful. It's a GTO. I think it's like a 1974. I mean, gorgeous, man. And this brother loved that car, right? And when you look at it, when you see it, you understand why he loved that car. Because when you, like, for anybody that loves cars, like, all you have to do is lay eyes on it to love it. You get what I'm going? You'd be like, woo, this you? He like, yeah, man. You know how brothers are, right? He like, yeah, man. Yeah, this me right here, And then that car got totaled. Do you know that thing took him out? You know it took him out. It took him out. You say, how could, he was fine. That's the beauty of being in an old school car. Somebody can hit it real hard and you okay, because those cars made different, okay? So he was fine physically, but emotionally, psychologically. And part of the reason is he had grown to love the car more than he loved himself. So you couldn't say, well, man, at least you okay. In some ways, you could see in his face almost like I wish the accident took me with it. Because he didn't have an adequate amount of self-love. His love was into something and not himself. And this might somebody out there right now going, woo, that's horrible. Woo, but let your house burn down right now. And you talking about how horrible that is for him. Like, because when you love yourself, see, this is the beauty of self-love. You can lose everything you have. And not that it's not going to have some level of emotional impact. I'm not saying it's not. But you can bring yourself back because thank God I'm safe. Thank God I don't have a scratch. Thank God I'm good. Thank God my family's good. Because I'm not vested in things. I'm number one. I'm number one. I'm about to hit on something real slippery. This might trigger some folks. It comes to the same thing when we're talking religion. Some folks love their religion more than they love themselves. Let's think about it. Don't get mad. Just think about it. Think about it. You'll do anything for the church. Anything. Church is above your family. Church is above your spouse. Church is above your children. Like, the pastor call, you gone. Oh, the pastor just called. Like, yeah, I gotta go. Even yourself. You made a commitment to yourself. Today was going to be your day. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with religion. I want to be real clear. What I'm saying is nothing, absolutely nothing, should be in front of you. Now, for people who are having a hard time with that right now, let me just go somewhere real quick, right? Because this is what I got. If God is love, right? Now, you agree with me on that. If God is love, and the premise of almost every religion is that God lives within me. I am the temple. This is the temple. Correct me if I'm wrong now. This is the temple. And not only is this the temple, but I have a piece of God's magnificent spirit inside of me. Then in order for me to love God, I must first love myself. See, because this is why folks can have religion and do all kinds of stuff. You know, like you could be out here sleeping with multiple people. I love God. It's like, but you don't even love yourself. It's one and the same. It's one and the same. This is where we get, let me say it again. If God is love and God lives within me, right? Because this is what folks say. We got songs that say it. Like, man, for real, like, check me. But we got songs that say this? And God lives within me, and I have a piece of his spirit inside of me, then I must love me. And I'm not talking about arrogance. I'm not talking about conceit. I'm not talking about loving myself past any opportunities that I might have to grow. I'm not saying that I get to do whatever I want to do. I'm not saying those things. What I'm saying is that in order for me to have an adequate amount of love, self-love, I have to love myself, and that it is in the same way that I love myself, I show love for my Creator. Why? Because he created me. So if you really think about this, right, we often treat ourselves in ways we would never let someone else treat us. Never. So why is that? Right? Because here's the thing, Ade, if I told you couldn't drink water today, like I just confiscated the water you had, right? You'd be like, yo, man, nah, man. You know, you might be ready to defend yourself. Yeah. But you can do that to you. Like, you can go without water all day. I can't do it to you, but you will do it to yourself, right? Yeah. I mean, no lie. Justin, if I was like, man, all I'm doing is feeding you pork ribs for the rest of the week, right? You'd be like, nah, man, like, you be ready to fight, defend yourself, right? But then you'll go out I'm not saying you would, but you get my point, right? But some of us will go out and do the equivalent of that. But if somebody else was forcing you to do that, you have a problem with it. See, many times we treat ourselves in ways that we would never let someone else treat us. If I sat one of you down on Thanksgiving Day and I force-fed you, you're like, I can't take no more. No, eat this. You be ready to fight me. But many of us do it to ourselves. We eat until we're ill. We do it to ourselves. See, when you flip it, it don't seem right. Right? It don't seem right. If I took one of the listeners right now and said, all you get is sweets all day, I'm giving you pancakes and waffles this morning, and then for lunch I'm giving you cake, and then I'm giving you strudels for the evening, you say, no, I'm fighting you. I'm fighting you. But then we'll feed ourselves the exact same way. You say, no, I don't. Write it down. Write it down. Again, y'all got to remember, I work with people for a living. I done had people write down what they eat. And they come to me like, oh my God, I can't believe I eat this way. Because we're not even aware. You're not even aware. You're supposed to have 25 grams of sugar. Some of y'all are eating close to 1,000. And then you wonder, why am I so anxious? Why I feel like this? Why every time I sit down, I feel tired? You're like, well, wake up. Look at how you're treating yourself. So why do we do this? Why do we do these things to ourselves? Well, first, we've already been programmed with negative biases. I've said it before, but most of us have heard the word no 180,000 times by the time we're 18 years old. And so we hear no all the time. So then we come in and we're like, all right, man, we start focusing on what doesn't work versus what does work. We focus on what's not working in our lives versus our wins. And so then we're constantly reinforcing what isn't going well, and we don't believe that we can do anything well. And this is a subconscious belief. So then when someone puts a challenge in front of you, like love yourself, you're like, well, I don't know how to do that. The other thing is when it comes to things that we're supposed to have and things we're supposed to do, we're so used to hearing the word no that we tell ourselves no. I would just love to have, a little free time. I got the children all day. I just want to put them down for a nap and be able to watch a show. You say, hey, go to sleep. They're like, I don't want to go to sleep. You're like, okay. Versus like, I don't care if you go to sleep or not. You going in that room and laying down. Now, if you want to stay up, you can stay up. But I know where you're going to be. In the bed. Right? But we can't even do that. We can't tell them no. We can barely tell ourselves no. The other reason why is many of us, we have a cognitive distortion. So every human being on the planet has one of 16 different cognitive distortions. This is, psychologists talk about this. Just Google cognitive distortion to learn about it. But one of the cognitive distortions that many of us have is called enough, not enough. And what we do is we filter the world through this question. Am I enough? Now, that's a setup, just asking the question. Just asking that question is a setup. Because I don't care where you look and where you go, unless you're a narcissist, you're going to find somewhere where you feel or occur as not enough. It's just that simple. There's someone out there always doing it a little bit better than you doing it. You get where I'm going? Someone out there always a little taller. Someone out there always a little more swole. Someone out there always, you thought you had pretty eyes until you met them. You're like, man, I didn't know a man could have eyes like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you thought. And so what happens is, then you go, am I enough? Am I enough? And this question begins to erode our ability to adequately love ourselves. Because the answer to the question is, if I'm God's creation, I'm more than enough. But we gain this through our experiences and trauma of childhood and early adulthood. And so this is one of the other reasons why often this conversation of self-love becomes difficult for us, because we're in the conversation of whether or not we're enough, versus it doesn't matter because I'm God's child and I require love. The third reason why we don't adequately love ourselves is shame. Maybe something happened to you as a child. Maybe there's trauma you haven't gotten healed. Maybe there's something you did when you were younger. You didn't have the wisdom that you have now. And you have a deep shame about that thing. And that shame, what it will do, it will become an inner critic and erode your ability to adequately love yourself. To actually allow yourself to do what number 4 is, and that is give yourself compassion. One of the reasons many of us don't love ourselves is because of a lack of compassion. We can have compassion for everyone else. And when it comes to us, there's no compassion, no room. And then the last reason is you simply don't trust yourself. There's a lack of self-trust. And because you don't trust yourself, you're constantly questioning everything. Now, all of these things require inner work. And here's the way for you to know you need inner work. Because it doesn't always come down to trauma. Sometimes it may come down to something else, but take notice of your inner critic. Because if you have an inner critic that is constantly talking, consider that you need inner work. Is the inner critic running your show? Because it's sourced by something. The inner critic is sourced by something that needs to be dealt with. And that's why there's not an adequate amount of self-love. Well, Linal, you don't understand. See, I've tried to give myself breaks from my children, and I just get so guilty. That's the inner critic. That's the inner critic. And I'm not talking about somebody being neglectful. We already covered that, right? But that's the inner critic. And if the inner critic can win the conversation like that, consider you need inner work to adequately love yourself. Some of us, man, let me talk to my married folks right quick. Like some of us, we can't even fully enjoy the act of love making because of the inner critic. Am I doing it right? Is everything okay? Do they like it? Is it okay? Like what's going on? Like, and it's like, man, until you love yourself, you can't fully make love. This self-love is, we all adults, right? This is a big deal. And if there's a young person listening right now, this is why it's so important that you guard yourself from traumas, that you guard yourself and you begin loving yourself, learning how to love yourself right now, because you become an adult. You can't even enjoy the beauty of adulthood. Some folks can't even enjoy the beauty of marriage because of the inner critic. You can't even be present. And no matter how much love your significant other gives you, it will never be enough until you adequately begin to love yourself, until you begin to take care of yourself, until you begin to turn the same love and compassion you have for them and for your family onto yourself. Wherever there's an inner critic, there's no room for love. There's no room for love. Because if there's an inner critic, that means that the source is something that is other than love. Love provides grace. Love is kind. Now, here's one of the number one reasons we lack self-love. I want you to really listen to this. We also lack self-love because we don't really know ourselves. See, because if you really knew yourself, if you were really fully aware of your talents, if you could really name out your strengths, then you would have a better feel for who it is that you are and how you show up in the world. And see, the more you know about yourself like that, then you'd be like, I love me. I love the talents that God has bestowed on me, endowed me with. The Creator's been so kind. I can't help but love myself because he loved me to give me these gifts. Whenever I hear somebody say, I don't have any talents, It's a dead giveaway. Oh man, you gotta work on self-love. We all got talents. Every last one of us has a talent. Every last one of us, not just one, multiple talents. But what that tells me is you don't really know yourself. Anyone that can say, I don't have any talents, you don't really know yourself. You haven't done the work to get to know yourself, which means that there's an opportunity for a deeper level of self-love. Our 21st century society has deceived us, folks. It's deceived us into believing that other people are living lives that have met the standards of perfection. The other day, I was going through my Instagram feed, and it's a group of brothers. All of them, man, I mean, dressed to the T. And it was a reel, right? And the brothers, they kind of made a move together, you know, and then they kind of turned. Boom. You know what I'm saying? Shoes were shined. The buckles were gleaming. The tie, hey, I didn't see, you know, sometimes you see a, tie in the wrong spot. Every tie was just laid right down the middle. All of them had the perfect knot. You know what I'm saying? All of them had the perfect knot. Cufflinks blinging, all of them. All their beards were like moisturized. It was crazy. I'm like, boy, now here's the thing. It's a 30-second reel. Some of us will take that and go, man, my beard don't connect. My shoes. Like, we know, like any of us that know anything know it took hours for them to get that. Hours for them to put that together. But see, something about the 21st century world we live in, we'll see things like that and allow it to deceive us that other people are living a life perfect. Perfect. You don't know what those shoes look like before that man shined them. You know what I'm saying? And you don't know how he showed up. One of the brothers said, no, we can't shoot the video like this, bro. Man, we got to, teach this brother how to shine his shoes. You didn't see any of the opportunities. You only saw the practiced perfection. And if you watch the video long enough, you'll see some flaws. You see some errors because as human beings, we're imperfect. Somebody didn't turn on time. You know what I'm saying? But see, we're moving too fast. We don't see these things. And so then we begin to believe that we have to meet the standard of perfection, which turns on that inner critic that I'm not enough. And then since I'm not close to resembling that, then I can't accept myself. I can't accept how I show up every day. And then we also begin believing that loving ourselves means that I got to be happy all the time because everybody seems to be happy all the time. And that self-love really means that I gotta go to the spa and take care of my nails because when I look up hashtag self-love, that's what everybody's doing. And it's so much bigger than that. What self-love really means is despite my problems, despite my mood, despite my emotions, I still prioritize my well-being. So before we close, I just want to provide 5 self-love myths. This is where we get it mixed up. Number 1, listen to me closely. Self-care does not equal self-love. Don't get it twisted. A lot of people need to be putting hashtag self-care because even though the nails are fly, the hair is fly, the feet are done, they don't love themselves. You can't see that. What they did is self-care. Number 2, self-love is not the same as being selfish or egotistical. Number 3, I must feel lovable to be loved and love myself. I must feel lovable to be loved and love myself. See, energy is something, man. Energy is magnetic. The same way you can feel crazy energy, like something ain't right with them. You know what I mean? You don't got to say nothing to them. You just see how they looking. They got a little tweak. That energy ain't right. It's the same way people can feel energy when you don't love yourself. If you don't feel lovable, consider that might be why people give you so little love. Number 4, the past has no bearing on how I should love myself right now in this present moment. See, love is a choice, something you can choose right now. It don't matter who you were, what you did, any of that, or what was done to you. The past has no bearing on how you should love yourself right now in this present moment. And number 5, how others love you have nothing to do with how you should love yourself. A lot of times we look outside of ourselves for cues. And with self-love, it comes down to looking inside of yourself. Self-love says, you know what? I don't like this about myself. Whatever it may be. Like, hear me out. Self-love, this is how self-love communicates. You know, I don't like this thing about myself. Listen to me closely. I don't like this little inconsistency I have. I don't like this way of being. I don't like how I show up. I don't like this thing about myself. We're all there. So since I love me, I'm willing to do the work to transform that part of me. That's self-love. See, that's the difference. See, you can be aware and you can point to things about self. Oh, Linal, you got to work on that. You got to change it up a little bit, man, when it comes to this. Self-love says, you know what? I don't like that. So since I love me, I'm willing to do the work to transform me. There is only one love outside of God's love that will persist in your life forever. And that is your self-love. That is your self-love. Other folks you think might love you, they might turn away. One thing's for sure, the Creator will always be there. And as long as you adequately learn how to love the Creator inside of you, you can love yourself through it. If God is love and God lives within me, and I have a piece of God's magnificent spirit inside of me, then I must love me.